when it comes to food and what we should eat, it seems like a lack of clarity is always on the table. I hope when you finish watching or listening to this that you feel way more confident in the decisions you are making for yourself, for your family, related to food and meals as a whole. And I think that one of the first questions we get all the time is, do you need to eat 3 meals a day, 5 meals a day, 15 meals a day? No. Like most everything related to food nowadays, the reason to eat has little to do with nutrition and everything to do with making more money off us humans. John Harvey Kellogg, the man who invented cornflakes, cereal, developed a marketing campaign in the 1920s, 30s, promoting breakfast as the most important meal of the day. Not because some great research came out or some crazy peer-reviewed journal showed up, but because if everyone thought they had to eat food right when they got up to have their best day, then that would be great for business. So if for whatever reason you're not able to eat a whole foods breakfast like eggs, meat, vegetables, fruit, beans, nuts, seeds, actual whole grain bread, not the stuff at the grocery store, whole dairy, buckwheat oats, I would consider those all whole foods. I'm not talking the pre-cooked, quick stuff though, right? So it's the stuff you got to cook up. Then if you're not able to do that, then I would skip breakfast. I would say, you know what? Early morning, you know what? I'm missing breakfast. You're better off breaking your fast at 11 a.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m. because we want real food coming in. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, right? Because Mr. Kellogg told us that. Just like crackers, white bread are the base of the USDA food pyramid. Why? Because that's what they were told to put there, because that's what make money. That's where the money is. This is an economic strategy, folks, not a health promoting strategy. So break your fast whenever you want to break your fast. We all have different schedules. For myself, on days I'm seeing patients, I will eat breakfast, usually 99% of the time, 4 eggs, turmeric, sweet potatoes, avocado, before I see my first patient, because otherwise, probably not going to be eating anything until like mid-afternoon. And it is a lot easier for me to problem solve, think for patients when my stomach isn't growling and I feel nourished. However, come Saturday, Sunday, I'll often not eat breakfast, or I'll eat maybe an apple and then eat my usual breakfast that I mentioned around lunchtime. This is my routine and I feel great with it. But for many people who are working through a lot of food cravings and or may have a history of relationship issues related to food or binging style, this is probably not ideal when I'm taught what I'm doing myself. And in that case, holding a more consistent routine, eating at very specific times, make sure you plan ahead is usually most helpful. Unfortunately, one of the downsides of having this food abundance is that we have to make choices as to whether or not we need more food or we're food sufficient. This really is where the food guardrails of I just eat real food come in really handy, because it removes thousands, literally tens of thousands of instant options off the table immediately. Sweet, don't have to think about those things because I just eat real food. So once we have real food as our baseline, then we can look for satiation. So satiation comes from higher protein foods, higher fiber foods, higher water content foods, different texture foods. And the more chewing required, generally the more satiation will occur. I think adding half an apple to, say, standard breakfast meals is great because an apple, lots of fiber, there's water, and there's chewing. Whereas like egg, avocado, yogurt, those can go down real easy. But if you combine them, man, game changer. A slice of einkorn bread goes a long ways when it comes to filling us up. Say if you have an egg, changes the texture, increases the fiber content, forces you to chew. And if I'm behind on sweet potatoes, that is my go-to. Thankfully, my wife will make that kind of bread, so I get to partake in it. So eggs are a no-go for you. Say turkey, chicken, steak, salmon, whole fat yogurt, mix of quinoa and beans. Those would be fantastic. Enjoy them. A palm size of any of those meat products will get you in the vicinity of, say, 25 to 35 grams of protein, which is a great way to start the morning and create that satiation out of the gate. And I really don't like talking about food in a mathematical, macronutrient way, but I know so many people ask these questions nonstop. So there it is. And sauteed vegetables to go along with the protein substrate you're using. That also serve to enhance that satiation factor. Satiation factor will make you chew as well. And when it comes to breakfast, I also think it's a big deal to have the protein content, maybe have the sugar amount or the carbohydrate amount a little bit lower, because you're already getting a cortisol surge in the morning. That's the body's naturally. You wake up, cortisol goes up real high if your adrenals are functioning reasonably. And cortisol is going to tell your liver to break down glycogen, a storage form of glucose, and send it out into the bloodstream to be utilized by the body. So you already got a bunch of sugar flooding your bloodstream. You don't necessarily need to add more on top of that unless you are a big-time athlete, triathlete, maybe just did a CrossFit workout in the morning, something like that. But if you're like, I'm trying to lose a few pounds, fat weight, trend, desire, then it's going to be way easier to make it happen if you're not loading yourself up with carbohydrate, eating whole food carbohydrates first thing in the morning, because you're already getting the glucose hit that you need via cortisol. And if you have extra weight on you, generally you're less insulin sensitive. And so having the cortisol go up, breaking the glucose down that's already in the liver, sending in the bloodstream, and then you're eating something that's going to also perpetuate more glucose. It's going to make it really challenging to get that whole insulin sensitivity back and see the weight come off your body that you're desiring to come off your body. Now, when it comes to lunch or afternoon meals, I generally keep it really light. Often it is some like A2 yogurt with maybe homemade granola, frozen blueberries or raspberries, or a mixture of frozen berries, a couple scoops of Go Whey. And so having, I would say, smaller meals or almost mini lunches during the afternoon can go a long ways in keeping things very flatline and making sure you're not having that nosedive and feeling like I gotta have chocolate, I gotta have some candy, I need to have something really sweet, I need to have another coffee to keep me going through the afternoon. To have a small lunch or even 2 mini lunches during the afternoon, especially if dinner is your main meal of the day, that can be really helpful. But you don't have to either. I would say that if you eat breakfast, you definitely want to eat something in the afternoon. Otherwise, I've seen it over and over again, especially when you talk about body composition. It just doesn't work out well for people. I'm not saying we know all the science behind it, but there is something about eating breakfast, not eating, and then eating dinner, whether people end up getting ravenous and eating way too much at dinner or not being able to control their appetite and getting into more processed food. Hard to say, but I've seen it over and over again where people eat breakfast, kind of skip lunch or have another coffee, and then eat dinner, and they're wanting body composition change, but it does not happen. It's like people eat peanuts and they seem to lose weight. They start eating peanut butter, and what happened? I don't know. And welcome. Their scale that kept on ratcheting down all of a sudden just stopped. They didn't gain weight, but they stopped losing weight. So these are little things, just experiences with patients over many years, thousands of them, that can go a long way to making sure when you're doing all this awesomeness for your body that you're getting the results you desire. So having those mini meals, people find that their energy levels are much more consistent. The blood sugar levels are much more consistent and easily managed versus myself. I had a big old salad at lunchtime. I feel so horrible when I try to go work out 4 o'clock. Whereas if I have that at dinner time, I feel fantastic. So a couple ounces of meat, nuts, seeds, just maybe some fruit with the nuts and seeds, or a small little salad would be what my go-to come lunch or afternoon meals. And then when it comes to dinner time, we're thinking meat and vegetables, often with a side salad. Literally, this is what we're doing in my family. You could also, sometimes there's nuts in the salad. Often I get more sweet potatoes or even rice. One place I find that people I think are overlooking or missing out is where they're just bringing the carbohydrates super low at nighttime. And it's actually could be messing up their sleep by having too little carbohydrates at night. And if you're counting calories or macros, I would test out how you feel by putting in a few extra carbohydrates or having a higher proportion of carbohydrates at dinner time. Have the protein in the morning or carbohydrates at dinner time. We're talking potatoes, buckwheat, quinoa, beans, fruit, honey, oats, whole grains, actual whole grains, right? And see how you do on the satiation index. And if you have those sugar cravings after dinner, and then how your sleep does. If it doesn't actually improve, like you're getting deeper, more restorative sleep, because carbohydrates are vital for sleep. In fact, having more carbs at dinner time can actually lead to a decreased competition for tryptophan to be transported across the blood-brain barrier. And tryptophan, you may have heard before about Thanksgiving turkey, but tryptophan is then converted to serotonin, which then goes on to be melatonin and promotes the sleep onset. There are also effects from whole food carbohydrates on gut bacteria that influence sleep quality. So often people are scared to eat carbohydrates at night because they don't want to burn them off, or they're not going to burn them off. And it's just going to stick to me, and I'm going to get fat because I'm eating carbohydrates tonight. Recognize any food substance that we don't burn off is going to get in the way of our desired lose fat results. So could be carbs, could be protein, could be fats, but fantastic sleep is priceless for you when you're trying to have the capacity to make the decisions you want to make related to food the following day. If you get a good night's sleep, it's a lot tougher. Willpower is a lot more shallow, right? So please remember, if you have whole foods as your routine and you're feeling good, my advice would be to continue doing that. You don't have to do anything I say. Do not feel like I'm missing out. Do not do what I do or even follow the suggestions I'm giving, because all of our bodies and lives are unique. But if at the base, we're not consuming real food, we're expecting way too much of our body. There's no perfect meal plan. There's no ratio of carbohydrates, fats, proteins you need to hit every meal. There is real food repeatedly consumed as the foundation. Then, of course, amongst real food, plenty of people have issues with wheat or eggs or dairy or oranges or soybeans, coconut, nightshade vegetables. But start with eating real food on repeat, because the vast majority of us, if we do that, we will find that all kinds of challenges disappear related to health when real food shows up on our table over and over again. We have cravings going away, we have skin issues resolving, mental clarity shows up, depression stops, we're not as anxious, we're sleeping deeper, digestive balance. It seems like, man, my bowels work so good, I don't have acid reflux heartburn anymore. So if the results you want to experience in your health or body composition are not manifesting, then it is high value to change, adjust your eating habits, your eating routines. Whether that's the timing, that's the type of whole foods consumed, the ratio of whole foods, just make sure it's whole foods. And that is what I want to leave everybody here with. Over and over, it is, if we consume real food, our expectation can be that we're going to get the very best out of our body. If we do not consume whole food, our expectation cannot be that, because we're not putting life substance in our being. We wake up in the morning, I think having a lunch of protein for breakfast, a little lower carbohydrates because of, like I said, that cortisol spike in the morning. And then in the evening time, thinking, you know what? I'm going to have a little bit extra, maybe I'm ratchet up those carbohydrates a little bit and just see if my sleep actually isn't more satisfying, and for everything from sleep onset to sleep maintenance. All right, I'm Dr. Matt. Hope it's helpful. If you have whole foods questions, if you can tell me what you're doing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, love to hear it. All the time, patients bring me such cool ideas that I was like, wow, that's so simple. I should have thought of that, of how to nourish with real whole foods that I have not come upon. And there's always people out there that would love to hear what you have to say, because people want over and over, is they want recipes, they want ideas. And you likely do something very similar or consume food in a way that other people would, a group of people would love to consume food, but have not even thought about it. And right now are thinking, this is too hard to eat real food. But your example, how you go about things, man, it could be just what they need to hear. All right, I'm Dr. Matt. See you guys and gals next time.